Welcome to the HRTechNexus Podcast, the go-to resource for small and mid-sized businesses ready to revolutionize recruiting and onboarding. Twice a week, we deliver actionable, budget-friendly tech strategies to help you compete for top talent globally without enterprise-level costs. If you're drowning in manual hiring tasks, battling compliance headaches, or stuck with clunky HR systems, you're in the right place. We break down tools like AI-driven applicant trackers, seamless onboarding platforms, and compliance automation, all scaled for SMEs. Join me as we unpack real-world strategies from HR leaders who've slashed time to hire, boosted retention, and built future-ready teams.
Welcome back to HRTechNexus Podcast. You know, we like to really dig deep into the latest trends, and today we're going to be taking a look at HR automation tools.
Especially for small to medium-sized businesses.
Yep, exactly. We're going to break down how these tools can really change the game when it comes to recruiting and onboarding.
Absolutely. It's all about saving time and resources for those businesses.
You know, without those resources, sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, the HR tech landscape is constantly evolving.
That's true.
And it's really exciting to see tools that are designed specifically to help SMEs compete in this really tight talent market we're in.
Yeah, it can be tough out there.
Without breaking the bank.
That's the key, isn't it? We don't want to break the bank. But I think we should start by defining exactly what we mean by HR automation tools.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we actually talking about here? What should our listeners picture when we say that?
So essentially, we're talking about software solutions that take over. A lot of those repetitive, time-consuming tasks that kind of bog down your HR team.
Right. I mean, what kind of things are we talking about?
Think about things like posting job ads.
Okay.
Screening applicants. Onboarding paperwork.
Right.
Even tracking compliance requirements.
So all those kind of essential but really time-consuming tasks.
Exactly. Okay. And they just free up so much time and energy.
So instead of having like stacks of resumes.
Yeah.
And endless email chains.
You're right.
You're saying there's a way to have this like nice streamlined digital process.
Exactly. A streamlined digital process.
That does sound promising. But let's talk about the ROI.
Sure.
What's the real return on investment for SMEs?
Yeah.
Is it just about saving a few hours here and there?
Well, it's definitely more than just saving a few hours. I mean, that's a huge benefit in itself. But it's really about looking at how HR automation can directly impact your bottom line by making your recruiting and onboarding process more efficient and cost-effective.
So you're saying it can actually help you save money?
It can, yes.
All right. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. How does automating HR actually translate into cost savings for a small business?
Well, think about all the costs associated with traditional hiring.
Okay.
You've got advertising costs, printing costs, travel costs for interviews.
Yeah, all that adds
up. And then there's all the time your HR team spends manually screening resumes, scheduling interviews, processing paperwork.
Right.
Automation can streamline all of that.
Okay.
It can save you money on materials, man-hours, and it can even reduce potential errors.
That's interesting because you're not just saving time, you're also reducing those errors.
Yes.
Which can be costly.
Exactly.
And potentially even shorten the hiring cycle, which is great when you're trying to get those folks in the door.
Yeah, you want to be competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific examples of SMEs who've seen like tangible benefits from auditing their recruiting and onboarding?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a great example of a local retail chain. They were really struggling to keep up with hiring demands. They were relying on all these manual processes, which led to a super lengthy hiring cycle. And they were having a really hard time finding qualified candidates.
Okay, so they had a problem.
They did.
All right, what did they do?
They decided to implement an applicant tracking system.
Okay.
Or an ATS.
Right.
And after they did that, they saw a 50% reduction in their time to hire.
50%?
50%.
Wow, that's
huge.
Yeah, that's a big difference. What kind of system did they implement?
They chose a cloud-based ATS.
Okay.
And it allowed them to manage job postings, applications, and candidate communications all in one place.
So it brought everything together.
It did. It centralized everything.
Okay.
Streamlined the entire recruiting process.
That makes sense.
From screening to the final interview.
It sounds like having a tool like that could be a real game changer.
It is.
Especially for a small business trying to grow quickly.
Especially if they're growing quickly.
But wouldn't something like that be expensive?
Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
Many ATS platforms are designed with SMEs in mind. They offer flexible pricing models, and they have very user-friendly interfaces.
Okay.
And I think what you'll find is the long-term cost savings often outweigh that initial investment.
That makes sense. You got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
Sometimes. So I've heard from a lot of smaller businesses that they feel overwhelmed by the idea of implementing a whole new system.
Oh, yeah, I can understand that.
What advice would you give them? Where should they start?
I would say start by identifying your biggest pain points.
Okay.
In the recruiting and onboarding process.
Okay. So figure out what's really bothering you.
Exactly. Where are you losing the most time and money?
Right.
Once you know that you can prioritize your needs and look for solutions that address those challenges.
So you don't need to do everything at once. Just start with one thing.
You don't have to do it all at once.
Okay. But how do you know which tools are right for you? I mean, there are so many options.
You're absolutely right. The HR tech market is booming with options.
It can be overwhelming.
It can.
What should you look for?
So I would say look for tools that are scalable.
Okay.
Meaning they can grow with your business. Also consider things like ease of use, integration with your existing systems,
right,
and vendor support.
Yeah. You want to make sure you have someone to call if things go wrong.
Exactly.
What should you look for in terms of support?
You want to look for vendors who offer comprehensive training.
Okay.
And ongoing support resources.
Okay.
Ideally, they should have a dedicated customer support team that's readily available to answer your questions.
So you're not left hanging.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits. We've talked about how to choose the right tools. Let's dive a little deeper into how these tools actually work.
Okay, let's do it.
Like in practice, let's start with recruiting.
Sure.
Can you paint me a picture?
So imagine a system that automatically posts your job ads across multiple job boards.
Okay.
So you don't have to manually submit them to each site.
Okay, so that saves a lot of time right there.
Right.
But what about all the applications that come in?
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of applications.
How do you manage all of that?
That's where the magic of an ATS really comes in.
Okay.
They can screen applications based on specific keywords and qualifications, filter out the ones that don't meet your criteria.
So your HR team doesn't have to go through all of them manually.
Exactly.
That's awesome. But doesn't that make things feel a little impersonal?
It's a valid concern. It's important to strike that balance.
Right.
So while automation can handle those more repetitive tasks, it's really important to maintain that human-centered approach throughout the process.
Okay.
Many ATS platforms allow for personalized communication with candidates.
Okay, so you can still connect with them?
You can. You can keep them informed about their application status, and you can give feedback.
I feel like everyone wants that. Nobody wants to feel like they're just a cog in the machine.
Exactly.
Even with automated screening, you still have a pool of candidates.
You do.
You have to interview them. How can automation help with that?
So many ATS platforms offer features like interview scheduling tools that allow candidates to select available time slots.
Oh, that's nice.
So you don't have those back and forth emails or phone calls.
That's great. It's like having a personal assistant.
It is.
What other features are there?
Some systems offer video interviewing platforms.
Oh, interesting.
Which can be huge time savers.
Okay.
Especially for those initial screenings. And it can also help expand your reach to those candidates that are geographically dispersed.
That makes a lot of sense in our remote work environment these days.
It does.
It sounds like these systems are always changing to keep up with our needs.
They are. They're constantly evolving.
Okay, so we talked about recruiting. What about onboarding? How can automation help there?
Okay, well, imagine this.
Okay.
A new hire accepts your offer. But instead of being bombarded with paperwork on their first day, they get a welcome email.
Right.
With links to digital forms that they can complete online at their own pace.
Oh, so no more paper cuts.
No more paper cuts.
That's a relief. I hate paperwork.
And because everything's digital, the information is securely stored, easily accessible. You don't have to hunt for files.
And it's all in the right place.
It is. And many onboarding platforms also offer features like automated reminders, checklists, to make sure that new hires complete all the necessary steps and paperwork.
So you're simplifying things, but you're also reducing the risk of errors.
Yes.
And ensuring compliance.
Exactly.
But what about the human side of things? How do you make sure new hires feel welcomed
Yeah.
Even with all this automation.
That's where you want to combine that technology with a thoughtful onboarding strategy.
Right.
You can set up automated welcome messages. You can introduce new hires to their team members virtually.
Right.
You can even create online training modules.
Right.
They can access at their own pace.
And it kind of gives them some control over the process as well.
It does. It allows them to learn at their own pace.
That's great. So you're saying it's all about finding that sweet spot between efficiency and personalization.
That's right. Some platforms even let you create customized onboarding workflows.
Okay.
Based on the new hire's role or department.
So a marketing assistant might have a different onboarding experience than, say, a software engineer.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Make sure they have the information they need to get going.
Exactly.
What other ways can SMEs use automation to enhance that onboarding experience?
Well, a lot of platforms offer features like social networking tools that connect new hires with their colleagues, help them build relationships from day one.
That's so important, especially in a remote work environment.
Yeah,
where you don't have those organic conversations.
Right. You don't bump into each other in the hallway.
Exactly.
Those water cooler conversations.
You've got to be more intentional about it.
You do.
It sounds like automation can really help companies create a more engaging and supportive onboarding experience.
It can.
Which ultimately leads to happier employees.
Happier, more productive employees.
Right. Because if they feel good, they're going to do good work.
Exactly.
And they're more likely to stick around.
Yeah, retention is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Lower those turnover costs.
Lower those costs.
So we've talked about automating recruiting and onboarding.
Yes.
And how these tools actually work.
We have.
And we touched on how important it is to maintain that human element throughout the process. But let's zoom out a little bit. Talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
What kind of impact is HR automation having on the way small businesses approach HR in general?
Well, I think it's really empowering them to operate with a level of agility and efficiency that you usually only see in much larger organizations.
Okay.
By automating routine tasks. You're freeing up those HR professionals to focus on more strategic initiatives.
Okay. So what kind of things?
Things like talent development, employee engagement, and creating a really positive company culture.
So it's not just about automating tasks. It's about automating strategy.
It is. It's about working smarter and not harder.
I like that. What about data? Does HR automation provide any data or insights that can help SMEs make better decisions?
Oh, absolutely. It can provide incredibly valuable data and insights.
Okay.
You can track things like time to hire, cost per hire, even employee satisfaction. And that allows you to pinpoint areas for improvement and really measure the effectiveness of your HR initiatives.
So you can see what's working and what's not.
Exactly. You can make data-driven decisions.
That's huge for small businesses because sometimes they don't have access to that.
Yeah, it can really level the playing field.
Now, with all this talk about automation, I know some people are worried that technology is going to replace HR professionals.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I really see automation as a tool.
Okay.
That enhances the role of HR.
Okay.
Doesn't replace it. By taking over those mundane tasks, you're freeing up HR professionals to focus on those more human aspects.
Okay. So what would that be?
Building relationships, coaching employees, fostering that positive work environment.
So it's not about getting rid of humans.
No.
It's about making their jobs better.
It's about augmenting their capabilities.
I like that. Augmenting capabilities. But I'm sure some SMEs are still hesitant to kind of jump on board with this whole automation thing.
Yeah, I can understand that.
What are some of the roadblocks?
I would say one of the biggest concerns I hear is cost.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, especially for small businesses on a tight budget. But we talked about how the long-term savings can outweigh those initial costs.
That's right.
What other concerns do you hear?
Another big one is just the complexity of implementing new technology.
Right.
I think a lot of business owners worry about the learning curve, integrating with their existing systems, and the potential for disrupting their workflow.
Right. Nobody wants to mess up what's already working.
Exactly.
But it sounds like with the right planning and support, those concerns can be addressed.
They can.
What advice would you give to an SME leader who's thinking about implementing HR automation tools?
I would say first, don't try to do everything at once.
Okay.
Start by identifying your most pressing needs. Prioritize the areas where automation can have the biggest impact.
Okay.
And then do your research. Compare different vendors. Choose a solution that aligns with your budget, your technical capabilities, and your long-term goals.
So be strategic about it.
Be strategic.
What about resources? Are there resources available to help businesses with this process?
Oh, absolutely. You're not alone in this. There are tons of resources out there.
Like what?
You can consult with industry experts.
Okay.
Attend webinars, even connect with other SMEs who have successfully implemented automation tools.
So learn from the people who have been there.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, so we've talked about the what, the why, and the how of HR automation.
We have.
Let's look ahead a little bit.
Okay.
What emerging trends in HR tech are you excited about? What's coming down the pipeline?
Well, one trend I'm really excited about is the rise of AI-powered tools.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Interesting.
We're seeing AI being integrated into everything.
Okay.
From candidate screening and interview scheduling to performance management and employee engagement.
Wow. Can you give us some specific examples of how that's working?
Sure. So some ATS platforms are now using AI to analyze resumes and identify candidates who are the best fit for a particular role, even if they don't use the exact keywords.
So it's like having a super recruiter.
It is.
Who can see beyond the surface.
Exactly. It can identify hidden talent.
That's pretty cool.
It is. We're also seeing AI being used in chatbots.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
That can answer employees' questions about benefits, policies, and procedures.
So it frees up HR to do other things.
It does. It frees up so much time.
Sounds like AI has the potential to really change things.
I think it does.
What other trends are you seeing?
Another exciting trend is the focus on employee well-being and mental health. We're seeing HR tech companies develop tools that help employees track their stress levels, access mindfulness resources, and connect with mental health professionals.
That's a really positive development.
It is.
It's not just about productivity. It's about the human side of things.
Exactly. It's about creating a more human-centered workplace.
I like that.
Where employees feel valued and supported.
That's great. It sounds like we're on the verge of a really big shift in the way we work.
I think we are.
And manage talent.
Yes.
But let's bring it back to the present.
Okay.
What's one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember about HR automation?
I would say the biggest takeaway is that HR automation is no longer just a luxury for large corporations. It's an essential tool that can empower SMEs to compete.
In today's world.
In today's world.
Yeah, it's a tough world out there.
By embracing these technologies, small businesses can streamline their operations, improve their recruiting and onboarding processes, and create a more engaged and productive workforce.
So it's all about leveling the playing field.
Exactly.
Giving SMEs the tools they need to thrive.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground about HR automation.
We have.
But before we wrap up, let's bring it back to our main focus. Remember, we started by talking about how these tools can really transform recruiting and onboarding for SMEs.
Right.
Now that we've talked about all this, what's like one big piece of advice you would give to an SME leader who wants to make those processes more efficient and effective?
I think the most important thing is to really understand your specific needs and challenges.
Okay, so figure out what's going on in your business.
Exactly what are your pain points?
Okay.
What are you hoping to achieve?
What are your goals?
Yeah, once you have that clarity, you start to look at which tools can help you get there.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Not at all.
You have to figure out what works for you.
Exactly.
What questions should SME leaders be asking themselves when they're looking at these different tools?
I think a good starting point is to ask, what are our biggest recruiting and onboarding challenges?
Okay, so what's keeping you up at night?
Yeah, what's causing the most headaches?
Right.
Is it attracting qualified candidates? Okay.
Is it streamlining the application process? Reducing your time to hire?
So figure out what's broken.
Exactly.
And then find a tool to fix it.
That's it.
What other factors should SMEs consider?
I think ease of use is really important.
Okay.
Especially for smaller teams.
Right. They might not have a dedicated IT person.
Right. You want something that's intuitive, user-friendly.
Easy to use.
Easy to use.
What about integration?
Integration is key. You want to make sure that the tools you're choosing can integrate with your existing HR software.
Okay.
Payroll systems, other business applications.
You want everything to play nice together.
You do.
So it sounds like choosing the right HR automation tools is kind of like putting together a puzzle.
I like that analogy.
You got to find all those pieces that fit together to create this whole picture.
I agree.
Okay, so you've got the pieces, you've got the puzzle.
What are some best practices for actually implementing these tools?
Communication is key.
Okay.
And training involve your HR team, your hiring managers, even your employees.
Okay.
You want to make sure everyone understands why you're doing this, what the benefits are, provide really thorough training, and offer ongoing support.
Okay, so you don't just set it and forget.
You got to nurture it.
What about measuring success?
That's a good question.
How do you know if this is actually working?
Define your metrics up front.
Okay.
What are those key performance indicators?
What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah. Do you want to reduce your time to hire?
Okay.
Increase applicant quality? Improve the candidate experience?
Right.
Once you have those metrics, you can track your progress.
Okay, so see how you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah. Embrace the change. HR automation is here to stay. It has the potential to really change how SMEs attract, hire, and onboard talent.
Okay.
By embracing these technologies, you can free up your HR team to focus on those more strategic initiatives, create a more engaged and productive work environment, and ultimately achieve those business goals.
I love that it's not just about efficiency.
Nope.
It's about empowerment.
It is.
Giving those SMEs the tools they need
to
succeed in this crazy talent market.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
For this deep dive into HR automation.
I enjoyed it.
It's been a great conversation.
Likewise.
We hope you've learned a lot.
You too.
And are excited to explore how these technologies can transform your business.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep innovating.
Thanks for joining us on the HRTechNexus podcast. Ready to take action? Head to HRTechNexus.com to access today's episode resources, including actionable guides, real-world case studies, and free tools to streamline your hiring and onboarding. Don't miss our weekly newsletter for bite-sized HR tech hacks, software comparisons, and compliance tips tailored to SMEs. No enterprise-level budgets required. And if you're ready to transform your HR workflows with custom-built solutions, book a free discovery call with our experts. We design strategies that fit your company's size, industry, and global needs. Until next time, innovate boldly, outsmart the status quo, and let's build HR teams that don't just compete, they dominate.